When those lights dimmed and the overture to Gypsy started, I started tearing up. I was so excited to finally be seeing a professional production of Gypsy. I had seen the movie with Rosalind Russell and Natalie Wood. I love that film. And then I went on to direct a community theater production of Gypsy. So I'm kind of an expert at the show. I'm joking before you leave me a mean comment. And then at a certain time after that, I did see the pro shot of Gypsy live from the Savoy Theater, which starred Imelda Staunton. I thought that was a great production as well. In my upcoming musicals of 2024, 2025, I said that Gypsy is a hard show to mess up. And some of you took issue with that, and I understand. But I just think at its core, it is such an elevated piece of theater. The book by Arthur Lawrence, the music by Jules Stein, and the lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. I mean, it just comes together so perfectly. I was on board with this production since I first saw this poster. I just think this is one of the most beautiful posters I've ever seen. I love it. It's deep, it's rich, it has an element of mystery, and this is where I was on board. I was like, all right, George C. Wolfe, I feel like I see what you're doing here. And the character posters that were released are gorgeous. I mean, I was really excited, especially to see Audra McDonald in this role of Rose, and I think that this could be another Tony-winning performance. My only concern with that is that Audra McDonald obviously is a very gifted vocalist. And if you have not yet had a chance to hear her live, I hope you have an opportunity to do so, especially if you are a fan of musical theater. This was my second time seeing her. The first time I saw her was in Porgy and Bess. And I was just so happy to see her again. She's incredible. But her classical soprano style, to me, clashes tonally with some of the music here. And I do mean some. Like, I loved her rendition of Small World, You'll Never Get Away From Me, and Together Wherever We Go. But I would say for some of the more bigger, more heavy numbers in the show, like Rose's Turn and Everything's Coming Up Roses, that's where I feel a disconnect between the vocal style of a classical soprano and then also the music as it's written for the role of Rose. But with that concern out of the way, I really enjoyed Audra's interpretation of the character of Rose. I was really rooting for her Rose to achieve her dream. And to me, it didn't feel like a selfish motivation. Like I wasn't feeling like she was wanting to live vicariously through her children. I think she genuinely wanted a better life for her children and then also herself in that. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. And I was like, all right, Rose, I mean, though some of your actions are unorthodox and probably illegal, I like your ambition. And I feel like her ambition is something that Danny Burstein's Herbie also really loved. Danny Burstein was great in this role. I expect that he will be nominated for his performance here as well. Jordan Tyson as Dainty June is perfect casting. She was phenomenal. I would really like to see her get nominated for this, but to be honest, I've never seen someone who's played Dainty June get a nomination. Usually that spot is held for the person who plays Louise, who here is played by Joy Woods, who I do think will possibly get nominated for her performance here for Best Featured Actress in a Musical. But the two of them together are fantastic. And I think that does have something to do with the fact that they're both very familiar with each other. They both just finished up The Notebook on Broadway. So they already have a really comfortable dynamic. So that was very cool to see. I mean, that is a producer's dream right there. That casting could not have worked out any better. And there, If Mama Was Married is amazing. I loved their harmonies in that. It just tickles something in my brain. I love that song. I think it's phenomenal. And Joy Woods as Louise is great. I was so excited to see Joy Woods on stage. I regret not seeing her in Little Shop of Horrors when she was Audrey. I saw that video posted online of her singing Somewhere That's Green, and I wish I saw her in that. It just didn't line up, but I was so happy to see her here. There were choices that she was making that feel very unique to her Louise. What I really loved about Joy Woods' interpretation of this character was the way that her Louise really looks up to Rose. And in a way, we kind of see her like act a little bit like Rose, especially in Act 2. And they really sold me on it. They sold that mother-daughter relationship very, very well. My favorite part about Gypsy is seeing Louise's story and her transformation. Spoilers here if you don't know the story, but I love seeing Louise go from who she was in Act 1 to Gypsy Rose Lee at the end of Act 2. But I have to say, I was really disappointed by Gypsy's strip routine at the end of Act 2. I mean, this is the big climactic moment where we see her transform. and it felt very rushed to me. I was hoping to see more of a gradual build in Louise figuring out her performance style as GYPSY. My other issue with it is the fact that there is a dance break during the Garden of Eden sequence that I did not like this choice. I didn't like it because I think it's very clear in the script that Louise cannot dance. Now, maybe they are trying to say, oh, well, like, look what happens when she's doing something she loves. Like, she can do anything. She's not under her mother's watch. But come on, the whole point of this section is that Louise figures out that her gimmick when performing is speaking to the audience. That's what she's good at. That's what she's talented at. So I didn't like that there was this added element of a dance break in this section of the show. And the way in which that she disrobed didn't feel like it was as much of a spectacle as it needed to be. Like, that's another reason why I had an issue with the choreography here, because in the dance sequence, she was losing garments as the number was going on, but it wasn't very obvious. And at times it was like, did you lose an article of clothing? Where I shouldn't have had to ask that question. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, did you just lose an article of clothing? I wish I was like, oh, you just lost an article of clothing. Oh my. And also, let me just say, Baby June's Newsboy set should not have looked like it had a larger budget than Gypsy Rose Lee's Garden of Eden set. That was odd to me. Although I did not agree with the placement of the dance break in Gypsy's Let Me Entertain You, Camille A. Brown's choreography, she's able to make enough changes that it still feels familiar to Gypsy while making it her own vision, and I appreciated that. My favorite sequence of hers was the Seattle to Los Angeles road sequence with the dancing road signs, and there was a little homage to one of the placards that are scripted in the show. In past productions, you may know if you're a fan, but there would be placards on the side of the stage that tell you what the title of the next scene is. They do away with those in this production, and I'm okay with that, but there was a little homage to that section's placard written on one of the road signs. So I thought that was a nice little Easter egg. Lesli Margherita, Lily Thomas, and Mylinda Hull all play Tessitura, Mazeppa, and Electra. They were fantastic. Lesli Margherita is doing her very best Fran Drescher impression, and I was okay with it. She's very well cast. Lesli Margherita is such a character. I had so much fun watching her on stage. And Lily Thomas, shout out to her. She really does play the trumpet on stage, and I was beyond impressed. Like, there would be moments where she would turn around while playing the trumpet and the sound would change, and I was like, oh yeah, it's really her playing. Good on her. She did great. And Mylinda Hull was hilarious as Electra as well. Very funny, very standout performances. I really thought that this ensemble was great, and I have to give a shout out to the children ensemble. They were fantastic. Overall, this production was very well cast. Here is a view from my seat. I was way too close. I'll just say it right now. It was not great for anything that happens farther downstage. So, like, for example, the end of Rose's turn, I had to turn my head like 90 degrees to see Audra McDonald perform this. And then at the back of the stage, there's that light up sign that says Rose, and I had to keep turning my head between Audra and the sign and Audra and the sign. I wish I was at a different vantage point in the theater to see that stage picture. And technically, my seat was not labeled as partial view. And that's true, but some set pieces, when they would move in and out, did obstruct my view at points. I have a feeling that if you were sitting farther from center than where I was, you would have more of a partial view seat. However, being able to say that I was front row for Audra McDonald and GYPSY, I mean, that's something to brag about, right? So, it had its perks. One of its perks being that I could very easily see tears from the performers. I'm not one of those people that needs an actor to cry for me to feel some sort of sympathy for the character, but oh boy, is it a treat when they do. And Joy Woods and Audra McDonald in particular, they cry. They cry a lot in the show, and they were really feeling it. And it was cool to sit there and kind of see them working, because you don't get to do that often. Also, Joy Woods in particular, where she sang Little Lamb, that was like right in front of me, and I was like, I don't know how to act. She's sitting right there. Here is a view from my friend's seat. She was there opening night. I was so completely jealous. As you can see, she's farther back in the mezzanine. And here is a view from my mom's seat. My mom went on a different night than when I went. She is center front mezzanine-ish, but it looks like it was a really good view. So should you see GYPSY before it closes? I think that it is a production that if you are a fan of theater, you may regret not seeing if you were able to. And if you've never seen Audra McDonald perform live before, here's a great opportunity to do so. Also, if you're just craving like a really great classical musical, there's no gimmicks, haha. It's very to the book, which is great. I very much appreciated that about this production. Those are my thoughts on GYPSY now playing at the Majestic Theater. I would love to read your thoughts in the comment section below. I would also really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out some of my other reviews and theater-related content on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to stay off your phones while at the theater.